I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call of members, please?
Yes, Director Brandon,
Here.
Director Brown. Here. Vice Chair Hernandez,
Present.
Director Josie.
Present.
Livermore alternate Marchand,
Here.
Director Testa,
Present.
and Chair Hubbard.
Present.
We have one.
Very good. Thank you. Item 3 is chance for members of the public to make comments. Members of the audience may address the Board of Directors on any matter within the general subject matter jurisdiction of the LAVTA Board of Directors. Do we have any speakers in person? Any online?
We do not have anybody online. I didn't receive anything via email, and there's nobody here in the public today.
Great. We'll close item 3 and move to item 4, consent calendar. These are items generally approved as a group unless anybody would like to pull an item by raising their hand or giving my attention. Mayor Marchand.
Just a quick question on hydrogen retrofits. So I think this, we're not going to be fueling there, but will this be review? Well, it says review the as-built, but will we get the as-built when the project is completed? Let me try that again. So it just came out of one meeting. In the specs, it says that they're going to review the as-built for the project. Will we have as-built after the project is completed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's it.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Brown moves.
Hernandez, second.
All right. Roll call vote. Are any of us online? No? So can we just
You're on here.
do all in favor, say
Aye.
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 No comments. No.
Any opposed? I think one of our very first non-roll call votes is unanimous. All right.
I was faster.
Item 5 is LAVTA's operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2024.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am presenting to you the operating capital budget for fiscal year 2024. I'll start on the operating side. On the operating side, we are increasing our overall budget by 1.55%. This is versus last year's budget, not actuals. We have the total operating budget is $24,619,185. It does have a plan for us to go back to full pre-COVID levels of service. It's been our plan for a few years. We are still recruiting drivers, but we're really hoping that for this next year, we will be able to do that. On the revenues, or excuse me, back to operating, the paratransit, you'll see is going down quite a bit. That has to do with the amount budgeted last year by the then director of operations. We didn't have the contract signed at budget time. So his estimates were much higher than what they've actually been this year, which is preferred instead of going over budget, but it was quite a big difference. We are budgeting fuel this year at $4.25 a gallon. Our average actual state is $3.93 a gallon. So this time last year, I honestly thought it was going to be closer to $5. So I'm very happy that it has gone down, but we still like to budget conservatively in case it does go up. So. We also put in a little extra on that line item just in case it goes above what we're anticipating. For our non-revenue vehicles, we budgeted $550 now, but that's a much smaller line item. On the revenue side, one thing that LAVTA does that is somewhat unique compared to other agencies is we do not budget revenues unless we have that grant. So even if we feel good that we're going to get it, we don't put it in the budget because then what you end up doing at the end of the year, you spent all your operating, you did all your operations, now you have to back up with revenues. We prefer to go the other way where, hey, we got the grant, now we can put a little extra reserves. Doing it the other way got us in trouble in 2009, so we changed. On the capital side, we do it the other way. And we budget what we're anticipating. And the reason for that is because if we don't get those revenues, we just won't do the project. So for example, we've recently applied for a grant for Atlantis for $33 million. If we don't get the grant, we're not going to find 33 million in our pockets to go ahead and do the project. So we have money in reserves. We don't have that much money in reserves. The capital budget is less than last year, but that's because we completed the bus purchase project. So that's over last year. Those are my highlights. Any questions?
Brandon first, then Marshawn.
Okay, I have two questions. One is on page 1 of the staff report, just I can understand the percent share of the overall budget. There's 300%, which is 141%. It's on the staff report, not.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh,
You're
on the-
chart,
On the
which is
staff
supposed to be
report,
fixed already.
yeah, on the staff report, the changes, there's just big percent numbers, 300% minus 150. What are those percents?
That's the share of the overall budget increase. So of that 1.55%,
Yeah.
I believe it was Jerry Penton who asked me to put that in there years ago, because he didn't like the increase over prior year. He wanted to know, I think that year was like a 14% increase. So he wanted to know what made
What's
that.
driving?
Okay.
Exactly. So being 1.55, the numbers are a little kind of scary looking.
Yeah, I just didn't understand where those percents came from.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, is really only 5% of revenue from the fare box?
Yes and no.
Welcome to.
Very
In a normal year, pre-COVID, it was about 15 to 20.
Okay.
After COVID, it's been trending higher, but what I used was, I annualized this year's actuals. So some of that's not perfectly accurate because, our Clipper revenue takes like 3 months to get after the month closes out. That will be changing soon when we get Clipper too. But yeah, I like to, budget conservatively on revenues.
Okay.
So yes, it is fairly low.
Yeah, I mean, if it's that low, just, we might want to think about possibly fare less. I know there's ups and downs on that. Something to throw.
We
out there.
have done that, especially to introduce riders to the program, but it's called fare box recovery. It's not very.
Well, for some of,
Yeah.
for some of our.
FAIR.
For some of our funding sources, we have a fare box recovery ratio requirement.
Hmm.
So for us to, they're kind of waiving it because of COVID, which is great. But like for our STA, that would be a huge chunk of our budget to lose. However, you never know, the region may decide to change those rules, so. They have a lot of control over that, so it's something that's been talked about, changing those rules, but, I'm not gonna do that, so.
But the downside would be a whole 5%.
Right. Financial wise, it's not a.
1%, 24 million.
1.2.
And
Marshawn.
Yes, so the purchase transportation, those are contracted drivers. We don't have drivers of our own.
right, our fixed route is contracted to MV Transportation, and our paratransit is actually contracted to Contra Costa County Transit Authority, so county connection. And then they have subcontracted to Transdev, who then has some subcontractors of their own, who then also have some.
So, okay, so we don't have any drivers of our own. So
No, we
all
have
that
15
stuff-
employees.
Okay, so our 15% of our expenses are staff. I noticed page 61, the what's it? Oh, yeah, the transit center upgrades and improvements. And there's a federal funds supporting $20,000. And love the shot there. And we used a couple $1 million in federal funds for that, as I recall, to restore and move that, the city. And so what are the upgrades that they're proposing to do there? I know that there's a space in the back. There'd be like a deal, community room, something like that.
This is not the building at all. We don't own the building.
Oh.
So this is the transit center property. There's a landscaping project that was on the consent.
Okay,
There's some asphalt, or lighting that's out there because the base of the lights are in the landscaping or resting. We'd also like to change it to brighter lighting. We have some issues out there sometimes at night. The overhead canopy needs to be painted. And then there's some cement work because one of the bus space was built incorrectly and the buses tend to hit the overhead canopy and park there. So yeah, that's not the building at all.
okay, so it's the center, not.
Exactly.
All right, very good, thank you.
Any other questions on the budget? Okay, Brandon moves, Marshawn seconds.
Agreed.
All in favor?
I
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our second non-roll call vote. Unanimous. Wow. Item 6, addressing rider behavior.
All right, that's me. Good afternoon, everyone. This is an information item. Just wanted to update you on some challenges we've been having with our riders and brief you on the solutions that we are implementing. So should be no surprise that we have unruly customers from time to time on our buses. This is not unique to us, but we have definitely been seeing an uptick, particularly on our school tripper routes. We've been receiving reports of naughty children, if I can be so casual with you, vaping on buses, selling vapes on buses, being very disrespectful to our bus operators, sitting in the aisles, just a whole host of.
Oh, a ride along.
Right along.
Well, I will want to point out that Director Josie did put on a vest and come attend a sort of a ride along or a point check with the buses one afternoon at Dublin High, where we went on and tried to just really reinforce what the operators are dealing with. The operators, they have a lot on their plate. We want them to drive safely, and they're being called names. They're at the point sometimes where they have to pull the bus over because the kids aren't listening and it's unsafe. That's costly. We have to dispatch a road supervisor. We are now following up with and not to point out Dublin High, the kiddos are everywhere in the Tri-Valley misbehaving, but Dublin High has been wonderful. We have 9 cameras on our buses. When we hear a report of someone misbehaving, we can pretty much, not immediately, but next day, pull that video, send a screenshot of that kid's face, and then follow up with Dublin High administrators.
Why are you not following up with their parents?
The school district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because no one gives them contact.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's the beginning part.
And in some cases, I think the school district does follow up, and there are just some repeat offenders. I'll also just note, some of our ACE passengers have been a little unruly, not wanting to show their fares. And so I reached out to Stacy from ACE last week, and I said, do you mind sending an alert to remind your passengers that they need to show their fares? She's issued an alert today. If you got an alert from ACE reminding passengers to show their fare, that was why. So hopefully that's nipped in the bud. But in regards to the student riders, what we are doing, we're implementing a multi-pronged plan of attack. We are posting some signage reminding these students that they are being recorded visually and with audio, and that any inappropriate behavior may result in loss of riding privileges. It's well approved by our legal counsel. We are recording an onboard announcement. The recording will take place tomorrow. So this is something that the operators can activate before leaving. Thank you for riding wheels. This is a reminder, you are being recorded.
Not
So
that.
something like that. I would love to do a recording, but they won't let me. We are improving our communication channels with the operators. So as you know, we have a challenge hiring operators. This is a hard job. And in addition to the schedule challenges and not really having weekends, you're dealing with kids that are unruly. And so we want to show them how supportive we are trying to be as staff, and making sure that operators know that we have a good feedback loop. So if they encounter a student who doesn't want to pay their fare, or somebody who's calling them a bad name or otherwise misbehaving, we will act on it. We're not going to ignore this comment. So we're working on that feedback loop, and thank you to Regina in the back.
We'll let the drivers know that we're going to be.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think when we were out doing our field work, they were very appreciative of staff being out there. And lastly, just strictly enforcing the rider code of conduct policy, so suspending students from riding if the behavior is egregious enough. So we've done that, I think, twice. We had a student, the vaping incident, and I can't recall the other one, but following up with the school to follow up with the parents so they know, this is not tolerated. And I'm interested to see if we can create a student rider code of conduct or some type of agreement that parents sign when they re-register their students for the next year. I have to do it for my daughter. It's the school bus code of conduct, and I have to say, click yes. So I don't know, we have to talk to Mike to see if that's what we can do there, but something in the packet for the next year, so parents at least see, this is important.
But you are able to get the students, because every student that goes there and checks off you know, with the Clipper card, thing, you have their information.
We don't know who their name, like that's all
That's only-
personal identifiable information, so it is, the best we have is the videos. And then our partners.
Is there any correlation between the behavior and schools that are getting the free bus passes? The ACTC bus pass
I
program?
don't think so, no, I mean, all of Livermore students get that pass, and we don't see a lot of that behavior, I haven't noticed that behavior in Livermore. Only the lower income kiddos get it in Dublin and Pleasanton, and they're all on Clipper anyway, so it's hard to
Yeah,
tell who's
exactly.
actually using the pass.
You have, with Dublin High, you have something called the other districts, or, you know, you can contact the high schools or the district and get the information.
Okay.
You have that with all the schools?
Yes.
Real good coordination.
To be clear, it's not just the high school students.
It is not just the high school students, no, it is not. There's middle schoolers, you know, our continuation students are also, and just eighth graders as well. I mean, there's just, you know, we get complaints all the time.
Why Livermore has and not Pleasanton and Dublin? What is
Can you speak to that? That happened last.
Livermore has it. So originally it started by ACTC. ACTC had a requirement to address low income riders. Students tend to be low income because they don't have jobs. So ACTC initially did Livermore as a test. Worked great. Totally increased the ridership. In Livermore, our routes are on the route, our schools are on Route 30, the Route 10, the Route 15. Not a problem. We got enough buses, we can handle it. Dublin and Pleasanton, if we increase our ridership anymore, we don't have enough drivers and buses. So at some point, we can actually roll it out to everybody. But we have to be able to actually accommodate everybody, if everybody decided to.
okay? My next question is how on the buses, especially where there is behavioral issues, are those buses higher use and more crowded?
Yes,
Because students that, you know, if we create an environment that leads to that kind of behavior, there is some accountability for us as well.
sure. I think the biggest impact is kids sitting in the aisleways and that's, you know, blocking access, and it just leads to a little havoc. But the kids.
They're forced to, because of overcrowding, they're forced.
No, I think they just want to sit.
Okay.
I mean, I had to tell a couple of them to stand up when I was out there.
Okay, so there were seats for them.
Yeah, and we're maxed
there's
out.
no
We should be
Standing in the
But
aisle.
standing room only.
Oh,
It's
Yeah, and.
They shouldn't be.
Well, we've been doing that for a long time.
We have been, yeah.
I know, when my kids were on, it was, it was dangerous. I mean, and they came, I thought it was unreasonable conditions, so we don't.
What morning routes can we do to change the schedule? Or
I really
it's
think
just in the morning, and the afternoon.
it's the
right?
afternoon most frequently, although we do get some kids in the morning.
But I mean, the standing room only is a morning and afternoon.
It is
Dynamic.
morning, afternoon?
Afternoon has higher ridership.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They get to school some other way.
Yes.
their parents drop them off on the way to work,
Got it.
but parents aren't home from work yet.
Just so you all know, we deploy 11 buses to Dublin High in the afternoon. 25% of your buses serve that high school. That is a tremendously huge percentage of your ridership.
Which will
and your
go down when
resources.
the other high school opens, maybe.
Yeah, I
maybe.
mean, when the other high school opens, we have an opportunity to bring the 30R as a way to get to school, which is a resource that already exists where we have capacity. What's challenging is these schools where we have to run these tripper routes. They're very resource intensive and very short in length, very productive. And just, they all operate at the same time. So our peak resources are just really stretched thin. And there is a choice we will have to make if we desire to add more school focused service, what peak, either we expand our network and we find more money to operate service, or we cut service from somewhere else, or we look for more innovative solutions. But I do hear you on the crowding. We've seen the kids misbehave in not full buses as well. Some of these kids are just,
Of course, they're
you know,
kids,
yeah, so
but if you create an environment that, you know, our kids always complained about the standing on the buses and that get, you know, tousled and they didn't feel safe.
okay.
Yeah, we reviewed that. Sure. We did review that in the past and it was because of ridership and there actually wasn't enough room to park all the buses in front of Dublin High. So it was complex and they're usually standing just for a short while till someone gets off and then they can sit down. It's not like they're riding for a long period of time. But I would like to request that all schools be contacted for this disciplinary program. It shouldn't just be one or two schools, and I definitely want Pleasanton on that list. And then I wondered if you could expand on your code of conduct, because is there a warning before they're ejected from the bus? How does that work?
You speak to the code of conduct policy?
Because I mean, I rode a bus because I lived in the country and there were bad kids.
It's not as prescriptive. It is, there are a list of what you should not be doing. But it is not as prescriptive as our paratransit policy, whereas you get a written warning and then you get.
I wonder if we should tighten that up.
We are looking at it,
It's a matter
actually.
of-
It's one of the things, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes, recently the schools have been issuing the discipline because they are responsible for the students until they get home.
Yep.
And some of the things like vaping, that goes against school rules as well. So, yes, exactly, it's actually against the law to smoke on a bus. So they've been issuing and they've kind of been determining what they think is the proper amount of time. They usually do a week. It seems to be working. We had a student who was suspended for a week for directing inappropriate language to our driver. And then we had a girl who claimed she got thrown off the bus. She was not thrown off the bus. We pulled video, but when her mother called, the first thing her mother said is my daughter going to be suspended from the bus? Because she didn't want to have to pick her up.
Right.
So
Yeah.
word is getting out, she was not suspended for the bus.
Parents are
And she was not thrown off the bus either. She chose to get off because she didn't want to follow the rules.
Sounds like you have a good policy. I just would want to make sure it's in writing because there's ever a question about those policies. And it's wonderful that you have support from Dublin, but PUSD, I would think, and Livermore Unified. And then I too would like to look a little bit more into this ridership 100% free for Livermore. Even if it's some portion or some, the policy at LAVTA has been that the three cities are balanced in their benefits from LAVTA, that the amount of bus time per city is balanced. And so if there's a rate difference, we certainly know that Livermore is also an affluent community, that we have some sort of fair balance there, but the low income students get the rider bus that they deserve. And they thank you.
Please.
So no, that's ACTC. And so the reason why Dublin had not gotten it before is because Dublin Unified School District had not signed up for it, because that was one of the questions I asked when I got onto ACTC, and they said Dublin never signed up for it.
The schools themselves do most of the administration, and you're right, Dublin didn't have the staff, it took a long time to
They
get
just,
Dublin
yeah,
on.
they had not done it. So, but they're on board now. And so, but going back to the discipline, I think that the school principals, they make announcements every morning. And those announcements need to be reminded, because that's an easy
That's a great idea.
announcement.
That's a great idea.
That's not, but I think it's also our responsibility to send all the ridership, not just the trouble kids, that all the ridership, and let their parents know.
That's a great idea, though, the principal announcement. And Maureen, the principal at Dublin High, was out there with us with the best. And I don't mean to just single out Dublin High, it's just where I went. And so that's my most recent experience. But yeah, we do also have problems with Pleasanton Middle School and, all the schools.
I have another question, sorry, if you don't mind. You said the ACE riders didn't want to show their fare, what?
So the complaint was, and Regina can elaborate if I get it wrong, so we have an agreement with ACE where we honor ACE tickets. So you buy your pass or your ticket on ACE, you flash it to Wheels, you key it in, and it's great. And they were not wanting to show their pass, just refusing to show their fare, and it was an issue.
On the bus.
It's okay to get on the bus.
You start being-
And when we wanted some support in enforcing this, we wanted to make sure ACE knew that this was happening, and I was pleased that Stacy sent out a text alert today. So I haven't heard if there are any more issues, Regina. Okay, so hopefully that's a one and done, and that doesn't recur.
I can't imagine why anybody would refuse, but.
Sorry, one more. I did live in the country. I never rode the bus and I would never be a bus driver. And I just want to make sure the bus drivers know how much we appreciate them. Yes, we might have a hard time finding good bus drivers, but the ones we find, we want to keep, and they should know that we support them and that if there's discipline problems, we're here. We're here to support them. What can we do to make it better? And their job should be reasonable and they shouldn't have to tolerate a bunch of brats, and they're doing it times what, 60 or something, instead of times 1 or 2 like the rest of us. So, okay.
I think it's spring has sprung and weather
COVID is,
heats up and COVID is over and
Things have actually recently calmed down. We're
all right,
landed on spring.
we'll close. Any public comment on item 6? Should have asked, any public comment on item 5? No. Move on to item 7, July 2023 board meeting date change.
Yes. This is an action item. I was looking ahead at the calendar and noticed that you had your board meeting on July 3rd, and I thought that board members may want to have an extended July 4th holiday. So staff are recommending that you move your July meeting back 1 week to July 10th.
Any questions or comments?
Wait, move it to where? July?
July 10th. It's a
10th.
Monday, right following.
We got a council meeting that night, but plenty of time.
We'll keep the agenda light.
Thank you.
All right. I can't believe we approved the calendar with July 3rd. Somebody missed the ball on asking the question.
I wasn't here.
That's a good one.
I did see it happen.
Myself
Maybe
included.
not like that.
Myself included.
I left it in there expecting that somebody would. say
oh,
something,
that's a
and they
very
did,
clever way
so
to get out of it. I was thinking David would notice, but
It worked for me. I noticed, I was just like, okay, I can be that. I'm not leaving
I think
that.
you actually talked about it at the meeting.
you have a meeting on that 10th. Oh, that's reasonable.
Then it gets here.
Any public
All right.
comment?
Mr. Chair, I'll-
Brown moves and Josie seconds.
Right.
Is that okay? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Or abstentions? Our third non-roll call vote unanimous. Thank you. Item 8, executive director's report.
Okay, I have a long list of things to talk to you about. First, a few things that are not written down. Very importantly, I want to introduce Mike Tobin. He is our new director of operations. Literally is on the ground sprinting and joins us from the city of Culver City, where he was deputy transportation chief or officer.
Officer, yeah.
He's great. He's just really been an amazing addition to our team and getting very involved in all things, wheels out there riding the system. So really happy to have you.
Watch out for the middle schoolers.
Yeah.
I know.
They're the meanest ones.
They are the meanest ones.
I'm also proud to share that our local MV division number 44 just received an award from MV Corporate for the most improved division in preventative accident frequency rate. So congratulations. So that's wonderful. A really exciting event that I want to alert you to, we are going to have a bus rodeo on October 28th.
A rodeo.
A rodeo,
Rodeo.
ROADEO. This is a thing.
Radio.
This is
Radio
actually-
rodeo.
It's a rodeo, the rodeo. This is the October
That's
28th.
Livermore,
It's
right?
gonna be Halloween
Radio.
themed. This is a thing with a capital T. Bus drivers compete nationally for rodeo champion. And they have very intricate courses. It's like an obstacle course. It'll be a family event. We're gonna have a bounce house. We're gonna have food, music. I want all of you there. And if anyone wants to learn to drive a bus and to do a little part of the course, I will invite you to do that. I would like to do that myself. Just fair warning, if you hit anything, you'll never live it down. So just keep that in the forefront of your mind, but this is a really exciting event. We haven't done this in a very long time. Samtrans did this regularly. County Connection does this annually. Their rodeo is this Saturday. We're sending some staff there to judge and learn what it's about. So it will be at Atlantis. So we're gonna buy 1,000 cones to set up our obstacle course. And I think it will be a really, really fun event.
3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
Oh, it's all day.
What's the
This is
date
an
again?
all day thing, the 28th. Saturday, October. So it's hopefully that's enough time. But we want all of our operators to come and join the fun. Operators will work that day, so if they come off their shifts, they can come by, get some food, but there will be a set of operators who actually compete. And if they do well, we can send them to other competitions. So it's a really cool thing. And I would encourage you to learn to drive a bus and see. And then lastly, kind of left.
Can you get a chair and we can sit in place of a cone, a director can sit?
Well, I'm thinking of it. Don't
Michael, can we do this?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I'm gonna do the checkered flag.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Winner.
And then the last major update before I'll go into my written report, BART is rethinking their schedule in a very major way. This is no surprise. BART ridership is down still pretty significantly. Office commuters are not really coming back mass to San Francisco, and BART is seeing greater ridership on the weekend and off. So to respond to this, they are proposing to change their service pretty substantially. This just came to light last week, which is why it's not written down in your packet. But they're looking at changing from 15-minute service, a train every 15 minutes, to trains every 20 minutes. And I do agree with what they're thinking. I don't think it's a bad plan. I think it's responsive. Our challenge is our entire network is built off of BART 15 minutes. This is a major change for us. And BART is looking to implement it September 11th, which gives us more time to do our outreach, collect our data, and come up with some solutions. So we are already working on that. I've been getting data from BART on our Clipper transfers to understand how many people actually take wheels to BART. Surprisingly small. I just got the data today. So we are going to work through some service scenarios. We will have a public outreach process. So this is like a mini comprehensive operational analysis. And anyway, I just wanted to alert you all to that.
Isn't it just in alignment with their new schedule? I mean,
It's more complicated than that, unfortunately, because routes in Livermore are timed every 30 minutes to connect with those buses coming every 15. So you split those headways to every 40 minutes,
Slow
or
down.
every hour. Yeah.
they're going down 10 miles an hour.
So yeah, it's a bigger challenge for us. A lot of the other agencies that I've been speaking with, they aren't in the same situation because they are served by more than one BART train. So they have still good frequency of service, whereas we have one train. So
Should we make an issue with BART and say, think again? Delay till next year?
I'm going to speak up at the staff meeting tomorrow. BART is aware of my panic attack. And I think they were unaware of how significant of a change this would have or would cause for
Take
us.
a walk, son.
It doesn't. So how about I get back to you on whether we need to elevate this? I'm hopeful the staff will hear and be open to our feedback, but we're kind of small potatoes when it comes to the BART ridership. So I think worst cases, they implement September 11th and we just aren't there day one with our new network. We might be coming a few months later. But it depends on how important it is for us to connect to BART. If we learn that people really want to take wheels for local service and that BART is an occasional connector, we might not have to change our network too much. I think that's something we need to learn.
If we're still running 15 minutes and they're running every 20, that's certainly preferable than the other way around.
Us running every 20 and then running every 15.
Yeah, because worst
they
case
get their-
scenario, you're waiting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not waiting that long.
Yeah.
You might have just missed one, but
And it does sync up. We looked at
Yeah.
it's an imperfect connection, but I drove BART the other day and I'm not just gonna drive out to the station and go for a train. I look at the schedule because I know how frequent it is or how infrequent. So I think my hunch is folks will tolerate an imperfect BART connection. My hunch is folks won't be excited about a reduction in frequency. So we're having our staff look at some of those scenarios right now, and we will onboard a public outreach firm to help us outreach to our riders in their language, where they are. This doesn't impact our school trippers. This is really just your local service. But it is an opportunity to understand or better understand the travel patterns that are presenting themselves post-pandemic and, you know, to understand, do we need to restore service to Eastern Livermore? The Route 11 off of Vasco Road, we have a route that's been suspended for 3 years because of COVID. So I'm curious, is there an appetite? Is there ridership potential there? So we will be bringing this back to you, most definitely.
Drivers pretty much won't care, I think, because they'll just retime the arrival.
Yep, yes.
So therefore, getting the word out and for BART to pay for public outreach, maybe they should come out and buy public service announcements or at least put something at the end of the line advertisements so that people can see the new times. People will adjust
Yeah.
and drive. And to your point, if we don't know how many actually take the bus,
I did get the numbers today, and of our 4,000 average daily riders, and those are people taking 2 trips. It's about 150. It's tiny, and this is just Clipper.
still
okay?
150 people,
It is. It is.
small percentage.
It is. And so what we just need to understand is what are the trade-offs, you know, if we connect with every BART train, what can we do elsewhere? We might be able to reduce service on our rapids, but add more weekend service, night service. And I think that's sort of what BART's do. So I think that's part of what we need to do.
Just remember, I am so disappointed we only have 150 connecting to BART. We worked so hard. Remember how we had a group of people and they went around the community all along the corridors to say, here's where the BART train, now you can't get parking spaces at that time. And we really worked for riders. And that 2-seat ride is just really difficult to
I
get.
know. It's
Well, I
hard.
think we had it though. I mean, we're looking at what our current
Right.
percentage is, but pre-pandemic, it was certainly way higher
It
than
was
that.
about 16% of our ridership transferred into and from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
16% of 4,000.
Oh, no,
That's
back then it was
7,000.
7,000 back then.
yeah, so much higher. So you're looking at over 1,000 a day.
About 1,000
Yeah.
a day, down to 150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of this is also the, you know, are people gonna ride BART when they don't feel safe? You know, we can only do so much to generate our ridership if the BART system is perceived as feeling unsafe and not clean. I mean, I rode it, I had an uneventful trip, but I definitely was nervous. And that's just because you hear a lot on the news about people's experiences. And so I'm trying to make this a let's make lemonade out of lemon situation, and this does give us an opportunity to rethink our network, but not for a lot of time, unfortunately. Okay, now I'll just zip through the written report. So our ridership for April is not yet available due to the earliness of this meeting. We are still, I think, trending where we were in March, which is still below our pre-COVID level of ridership by about 30%. But I will share, we did look at some of the data for the 10R after we made the change to go to every 15 minutes all day. So we improved the service, basically doubling the weekday service on April 17th. And you can see ridership already starting to increase. So that, I think, that indicates our ridership is responding well to frequency, and that Route 10 is a really important connector for our community. The long range transit plan is still underway. This is one of Tony's projects, and he's on vacation this week. But we wanted to let you know that we are starting our stakeholder outreach. And so the project management team, led by Nelson Nygaard, sought some community input from the 3 cities' staff members, and we'll be looking to speak with our advocates as a next step in the long range plan. We are also administering our fixed route customer satisfaction survey. This is our annual check-in with our riders. Another good opportunity, given the timing of the BART change, to understand how people transfer within our system. This will be an onboard survey conducted over the next month. We are proposing to include our school shipper routes as we have in the most recent version of the survey, which was 2020. So we haven't done this survey in a few years since COVID. Since COVID hit. So we are proposing to survey our student riders as well as our local fixed route riders, and we will report back to you those results in the fall. Your shared autonomous vehicle project, just wanted to give you a quick update there. We are working on a survey to administer to the businesses that are around the terminus of the proposed SAV route. So this would include SICE and Ross. And what we want to understand is, are folks able to take this SAV service? Do they live near a BART station, or are they able to take BART to connect to the SAV? Are they commuting into the office? What time do they start work? So this all will help shape what that SAV service will look like, and then the cost of that. Originally, it was scoped to have pretty high ridership, assuming 10% of folks commuting to the ZEISS Business Park would be taking the SAV. And that meant that SAV is running all day. You need 2 of them to handle that demand. So we are kind of dusting off those assumptions. I don't think we'll see a tremendous amount of demand, but this is part of my, doing my due diligence with the SAV project. So, so we will continue to work on that. And bus stop maintenance. So I thank you, Director Brown, for sharing the picture of the embarrassingly dirty and trashy shelter. So I want to encourage you all to, if you see a bus stop that is in need of attention, just please email me, text me. Bus stops are the gateway to our system, and we're just seeing a lot more trash and vandalism. And while not every bus stop is our responsibility to maintain, we have cooperative agreements, Hacienda Business Park, they work with, they maintain their shelters.
Tomorrow's gotten that phone call.
Yeah.
But BART, they
And
have,
BART does theirs, and
do they listen to you when you tell them?
no, I'm working.
Another conversation.
It's gonna be a little louder, yep. Tony just shared with me, I'm trying to figure out the volume, so yeah. Tony shared with me that it's been years since we've been telling BART to fix their shelters, so.
I know, you need to send it to us.
I know, so I met with James Paxson about the Hacienda shelters. He's assured me he's got a new contractor and he will attend to any trash that we see. And so I felt good about that conversation. And we're also, just a quick follow-up, working with the city of Pleasanton on that First and Neal bus stop request. If you'll recall, a few months ago, Herb reported out that the TAF requested some changes to the Route 8 bus stop at First and Neal. The city staff have been great. They are actually looking at extending a bit of red curb so that the bus can safely pull in and use the pad to alight passengers.
So back to James Paxson and Hacienda, it was more than trash. There was paint thrown at the plexiglass, smoke colored plexiglass, and it had been there, what looked like for years, a long time. And so if there's an agreement that we have, I know this is going backwards, but perhaps Mr. Connery knows or can find what is that reciprocal agreement? And it should be more than just picking up trash. It should be the condition, the look, the chairs are broken, they're going to be repaired, and the plexiglass needs to be replaced if it can't be restored.
So LAVTA purchased a bunch of plexiglass for James with some funding that we had available. And his team has been slowly replacing those panels. I think that panel that you saw was one of the shelters that had not been attended to. James has a limited budget. He's definitely, if we can find any more funding to support the plexiglass, he'd be all open to that.
Always trying for, but you know what? He just needs to be able to raise the funds to do the job.
So is there agreement with Hacienda with the city of Pleasanton? Because I don't think LAVTA, we have a.
No.
Okay.
We don't have it for shelters. It's the city of Pleasanton owns the shelters and they have an agreement that Hacienda will take care of. All we have is the water.
We should call the Pleasanton.
We need to do a little
First I've heard of this. This is interesting.
So I can do a little digging there to understand. Yes,
Give me some data so I
Yeah.
can use it.
absolutely. But I think James got a new contractor. He admitted, that his contractor was not being responsive, so he did get a new one. And it is more than trash. It is crazy vandalism, and it's burning with lighters into the shelters, with knives. some of these
These are
shelters,
future writers.
some of these shelters aren't served by a bus
Might be
anymore.
correct,
I mentioned to James, would he be open to removing the shelters that don't have bus service? And he was pretty hesitant to do that. I think he feels pretty strongly that, and I get that, once you have a shelter and it goes away, will it ever come back? But it's
Looking
a,
better.
with the unhoused
Yeah.
situation that we're all
They're
facing.
definitely magnets
I
to
know, they
our
are.
house, but I know we've had that issue and what is the policy? Who takes care of it? Because we had some severe, where they just become, homeless shelters, so.
So James shared with me how he handles this. It's a public area, so you can only do so much to remove people. It's more like, can you move your stuff so we can clean the shelter? And then the unhoused tend to move back. There's also a challenge with when property is left there. So maybe there was an unhoused resident in the shelter and they left and there's all of this stuff. James has expressed that he's not sure what is someone's personal belonging, and he referenced, what was the Dodges?
No, it's Boise, it's Martin versus Boise.
Right, so can you talk about that?
Well, that's it. Arresting people who are unhoused, you have a problem with that if you don't have enough shelter beds available. This case from Boise, Idaho has held that
Right.
you can't cite it. We have, put up no trespassing notices and stuff. On a case by case basis, we tried to act and it's kind of that right thing, but it's not as though it's just a snap right in the citation.
Okay, I know we also had issues with them being used as hygiene shelters and there was human feces. in them.
Yep, he did talk about that.
And so, I mean, if you have a shelter that is not being used as a bus shelter, the type of use it's going to end up is, he had a huge amount of chatter on the social media about the filth in some of the, and this was about 2 years ago, I think, and we had to send a hazmat team out, I think.
Yeah, that's.
So with all due respect to James, it's our bus shelter, no, the city's.
It's the city's.
We'll get to the bottom of that exactly.
Sorry, sidewalk.
Yeah.
As far as the paint goes, there is a product made by a company called TSW
Okay,
that will remove paint off of plastic. So the company's-
There's even graffiti kits, I understand.
I've got one in my car, but it's I've got the masonry, the regular and plastic. I have all three of those.
okay.
But that'll stay off. They get off in plastic.
So according to James, the problem is with some of these shelters, it's a polycarbonate, it's not actually plexiglass, it's polycarbonate that he likes in his. And it's the problem of he's removed the graffiti, he's removed the graffiti, he's removed the graffiti, and now just get rid of it. So that's according to James.
Well, maybe the mayor of liver market. No, they.
I see a friendly
They just-
competition.
They just have to install the new panels, that's all.
But Hamilton, 50% of the shelters.
He just needs to get it.
All right.
Okay.
Polycarbonate section.
I have a quick question, if I might.
Yeah.
Are drivers empowered to report shelters that they see that are not up to standards?
Definitely.
And
Yes.
we are encouraging them
Yes.
to do so on the
Yes.
regular?
We will continue to remind them of that
Checking their
feedback
routes.
loop. And James actually has a bounty out for if you can catch one of the vandals in the act and it results in their prosecution.
Get a camera.
$500 bounty. So he's definitely trying to think through all things. He says trash is dumped from neighboring apartment complexes as well. I'm sure that's that happens.
We don't
He
want to
also did-
prosecute.
Why would they do that? They have garbage cans at the apartment complex. That doesn't make sense.
So we have an apartment complex in Pleasanton that I had to deal with this on because I was having to call out our shelter maintenance people literally every day. And these people were really smart. They were taking the address labels off their boxes. I had a conversation with the apartment manager and she said, well, the dumpsters are on the other side of the building. They're probably going there because it's closer. But I told her that I couldn't use public transit money to pay for apartment garbage. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I told her. And we haven't had a problem since. And it's been about 4 years.
You found the right person to talk to.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more items here. We are moving forward with securing this facility. We sent out a request for quotes from 3 firms to better secure this building, in particular, the bus yard and some of the doors and the operation side. Currently, a driver who is coming in after hours on a bus has to exit the bus and type in a code on the keypad to open. Is that right?
I don't know what they would stand to exit the bus, it's like they're.
Okay, but. So we are working on getting RFID tags on the buses so that when the bus rolls up, the gate opens automatically, and also implementing key card access systems at the remaining doors that are not locked when LAVTA staff. There are about 9. There's a gate controller that will be installed, a wireless transmitter, 2 long-range readers, and 9 card readers at designated doors throughout. We had a spirited discussion about Clipper at our last board.
Did John
meeting.
get his money back?
It's still there. Clipper tells me your money is still there.
But they lied to you.
They probably did.
Not the first time and not the
Did
last, but they lied to you.
I know.
They do take your money. And when I went online, it said there was $0 in my account. When I called and accessed the, what is your balance?
Okay,
I was told that there was a 0 balance on my card.
I'm willing to take this on as personal.
But then when I called and actually spoke, I actually spoke to a person
Okay,
because I had written the balance on my
Okay.
card. So when I actually called and talked to a person, they said, oh, yes, I see that your money is still here. So we can put it in your account. So you can't use today, but the next time you go in, like tomorrow, you can, next time you tag your card, you can use it.
okay,
But when I looked at my account, it was 0. But until you actually talk to a person, you cannot put the money back in, but they do take your money. Now, if you have a system that automatically reloads,
Yeah.
It doesn't reload until you use your card. So in other words,
okay,
they won't,
that's nice.
they won't take your money and then zero out your account, and then you reload it and then they zero it again.
Okay,
So you actually have to actually be using it before they'll zero it out.
If you have your card with you, we can tag it for you.
Pardon me?
If you have your card with you, we can tag it here.
Oh, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. But I had.
we're gonna get you your money, Mayor.
So you see, when I was no longer in office, I didn't use my my Clipper card. So when I get back, I'm heading over to ACTC and it says 0 on your account. Look at my card, it's got $18 on it. And so I called and they said, oh, well, tomorrow, next time you tell, so I need it today. I'm trying to get to Oakland today.
Yeah,
And it was a series of very frustrating calls. And then when I mentioned it at ACTC, they said, well, we'll have someone call you. And then when they did, they said, oh, yes, we take your money, but if you call us, we'll get it back to you.
yeah. I
But
think that's.
you have to call for it.
Yeah.
They don't just automatically.
No, I think I wrote a different paragraph for this executive director's report, and then I sent it to my Clipper colleagues at MTC and they gave me this. And
They did like it.
because I think that their point is you can get your money back, you just have to go through some steps.
And if you go online,
It's still.
you have no money.
Yeah.
So,
Clipper's clunky.
and they even said, we're not going to do anything about that because in a year,
Yeah.
we're going to be rolling out the new system.
Exactly.
So we're not going to spend a nickel on this miserable system
Yeah.
because we're going to have a wonderful system. And recognizing how well the BART computer works, I'm not holding any great hopes for this.
Well, I remain hopeful, but I hear what your comments. It is a clunky system. It's not user friendly. It's hard to add money on your
It's user
card.
hostile. Is what it is.
I just heard the Walgreens in the Tri-Valley.
Damn illegal.
Their Clipper machine isn't working, and so people can't access, Walgreens as a way to add money onto their Clipper card. And we want to push people to Clipper. We want people to pay quickly. It's easier for everyone. So I have a vested interest in, doing what I can to try to work out the kinks. But
I ended up having to buy a paper card for 50 cents more, even though I had the Clipper card.
that's frustrating. That is frustrating. Clipper staff did share that the Clipper 2.0 system, which should be rolled out next year, it does keep moving, We'll allow riders to tap their credit card, just like that happens in Europe. So
Oh,
tapping your
good. Oh,
credit card, tap the reader.
It's like a slot machine.
So I think that's exciting. That's more user friendly than this current system.
Because having to buy a Clipper card when you're only gonna ride once is ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're unbanked and you're not paying cash, it's
Get a
very.
bunch of quarters or nickels back.
And lastly, some sad news, but not too unexpected. We were not recipients of the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program Round 6. Congratulations to Valley Link on your award, and to Michael Tree got an award. I was a little jealous about that, but this was a large regurgitation of our application last year, which was a collaborative effort with 2 CTA, Tri-Delta Transit. It was a big mega ask. So I wasn't too surprised there. And we are still waiting on our 2 grants for Atlantis to build the maintenance facility. Tamara mentioned a $33 million bus and bus facility FTA grant, and then still awaiting the appropriations. So the community project funding request for the expansion of our hydrogen fueling station project. So if I hear about those, I will be very excited and share the news with you as soon as we hear it.
Any more questions on the executive director's report? See,
Real quick question.
Mayor Michelle.
So, what is the difference between a customer service, administrative incident and an operations incident?
Ooh, Tamara is leaving the building here.
On the left. Left.
I have an idea, but I don't want to say the wrong.
Because notice we have 5 incidents in March that were administrative
Yes.
and none that were operations.
Okay, that's odd. So administration.
What's an
is-
incident?
Is things we do kind of here. There's an issue with the bus schedule that hasn't happened in a while. There was an issue with the bus schedule, or they got this information from the customer service representative, which is also rare, but we do have someone new over there, that kind of thing. Operations is more like something happened in dispatch, something happened with the bus driver themselves. Maybe.
Oh, I was thinking like this is being an assault.
No. We haven't had.
These are just
assaults
glitches.
Since COVID.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that was the only assault in 18 years I've been. So our bus drivers, I went to a whole safety seminar, and they were talking about bus drivers and the attacks, and I was just sitting there going, oh, I'm very thankful for where I work, because our drivers, they get verbally assaulted. But physical is very, very, very.
We have very different definitions of incident.
Yes, well, yes, the incident, this is more minor.
Okay,
than an issue.
it's a-
Yes. Yeah, it's more of an issue.
Okay.
We did have that one rider where the bus driver pulled a gun, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes, we don't mention that one.
Really?
And that was not the passenger assaulting the
Last
driver.
issue we had.
The passenger rushed the driver after the gun was pulled, so it wasn't really the passenger's fault.
He rushed the driver after the gun was pulled? Wow,
Yeah.
the difference between genius and stupidity. Genius has its limits.
Yes, well, yeah. I think the guy was gonna like get a bus stand or something, but fortunately, nobody was hurt.
A question, if I could, on this report for Go Tri-Valley monthly trips. You're flowing along very consistently in March, looks like 2 months worth.
Marketing campaign on Facebook. Huge marketing campaign in March.
Really?
Yes,
It's successful. It's a real.
it was successful. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I thank you for pointing that out. I actually wrote a note to myself to point that out, but yeah, so that was really good.
Can we do that for Go to the other ridership?
Yes, I think we should
Be a
definitely.
really good option for riders.
It does, yeah, absolutely. I think we actually need to renew one of our agreements with either Uber or Lyft, where we might be coming up to the top end of our spend with them, so you might bring that back to you. And then, the preview of items is your normal business for it's next month, June and July, and we scheduled the July meeting. You have your safety plan update that'll be for you for action in June, so we stay in compliance with FTA. But that concludes my report.
Treasurer's report in June. All right, any other questions? Public comment? Seeing none. Matters introduced, initiated by board directors. Seeing none, next meeting is June 5th. Adjourned.
Wonderful. Good stuff.
For the record, we